Hello friends, this is Movie Man. Today I'm going to tell you about the 2016 fantasy film The Big Friendly Giant. In London, 10-year-old Sophie, a little orphanage girl, cannot sleep at night. While the other children sleep peacefully in Sophia's cot, Red Kitty ponders the night's wonders and dangers. The girl believes that the most mysterious time is 3 o'clock when witches walk and people disappear. But the little girl's a fighter, not a shy one. After scaring the police out of loud street drunks, she settles in bed with a torch to sneak out to read until dawn. But who is that making noise outside the window? Curious Sophie does not hesitate to break an iron rule. Never get out of bed. Never go to the window and never look behind the curtains. Standing on the balcony, gazing out into the darkness, she can't believe her eyes. She sees a huge man, a huge hand reaches out from the corner of the house and fixes the fallen urn. And then the giant appears in its entirety. The giant hides under a hooded cloak and bends to the ground, wanting to remain unnoticed. But then he meets with the frightened girl on the balcony. Sophie throws herself back into bed and crawls under the covers, but it's too late. The giant pulls her out of and takes her with him. Artfully disguised, the giant hides from random passersby and takes Sophie further and further away from home. Outside the town, he jumps on the rocks, crosses the sea and takes Sophie to his cave. He hangs the blanket with Sophie on the hook and prepares dinner. The girl decides not to wait for the giant to sharpen her knives and makes her way to the window to escape. The giant notices the fugitive and explains to her that there is no way out. He sits the girl down on the frying pan and continues to cook, while he educates the girl about the place where she has found herself. It turns out that there is a whole country of giants where, apart from the giant she is already familiar with, there are others: Flesh Lump Eater, the Bone Cruncher, the Man Hugger, the Child Chewer, the Meat Dripper, the Gizzard Gulper, the Maid Masher, the Blood Bottler, and the Butcher Boy. As you might guess, these fellows are not on a vegetable diet, but are eager to eat all sorts of people. A good 26 feet giant is small for them and not a hindrance. If they find Sophie, they'll eat her up in a heartbeat. He'd rather not bring the girl to such a dangerous place, but what can he do if she spotted him? The girl assures the giant that she will keep the secret, and who would believe her, the child with a wild imagination? But the giant is adamant. She will live in a cave for the rest of her life. Not agreeing, Sophie gets furious and declares that she will run away anyway, and without delay she points out many mistakes in the giant's speech. However, they are all sweet and amusing. The giant becomes visibly upset and admits that his words and thoughts do not coincide all the time. The girl's attention is drawn to a vial with a soft blue glow. The giant explains that inside is a dream. Sophie confesses that she does not sleep much at all due to insomnia. But when the new acquaintance starts reading her book aloud, the girl's eyes unnoticeably fall asleep. Convinced the child is asleep, the giant hurries to a secret part of the cave hidden behind the waterfall where he keeps other dream vials. He uncorks a jar of fiery red, disturbing contents. Meanwhile, Sophie wakes up to where she fell asleep on the mast of the ship lying right in the cave. The girl looks down at the snoring giant and slowly makes her way down. She climbs out and runs under the cover of night through the misty hills. Suddenly one of them turns into a monstrous giant and grabs Sophie. The girl screams furiously and her good friend listens indifferently. The children's cries indifferently and hides in his cave. The ogre throws the little girl into his mouth and she flies into his black throat. Horrified, Sophie wakes up from her nightmare in the same place she fell asleep, on the mast of the ship lying right in the cave. The smart girl realizes who did it and is angry, but the good-natured giant knows he did the right thing. Maybe this tiny little thing will change her mind about running to certain death. He sits down at the table, eager to wash down his meager supper with a real drink of the giant's. The frop-scottle, the bubbles in it don't go up, they go down. This is done so that the excess air doesn't come out of your mouth with an unpleasant sound. Instead of it comes out the other way and creates a whistling sound, an expression of not of a giant's happiness. The giant takes a sip from his throat and the next whiz-popper almost throws little Sophie off the table. Suddenly someone outside calls out, "Shorty!" This is what the other giants call Sophie's new friend. A giant enters the house. Giant is much bigger than the good giant. He sniffs around, suspecting that his kinsman has a new human. Sophie hides inside a strange vegetable, a dodo. Unaware of this, the landlord begs his guest to satisfy his hunger with the vegetable, but noticing Sophie's feet sticking out of the fruit quickly dissuades of the giant. He takes with him a bottle of frop-scottle, the small kinsman, a disgrace to the giant's kin. Unhappy Sophia is covered in green slurry, a fool's pulp, accepts the help of her good friend. She sits on his palm and the giant gently carries the girl to wash. After a fresh stream of water, he dries her by the stove and brings her a box of children's clothes. While the girl is changing, the giant makes a cozy nest for her in the nest in the big hollow tree. It looks like someone has lived there before her. Sophie is dressed in a new dress and a red velvet jacket. The giant looks at the girl at a loss. The jacket obviously means something to him, but it's time to go to work. He admits to the girl that he's catching dreams and refuses to take her with him. Left alone, Sophie looks at the amazing jars on the shelves. No, she can't miss out on such a wonder. The girl puts on her brightly colored jacket inside out and persuades the giant to go dreaming together. They leave the house and Sophie sees that they have to cross the lawn where the ogres snore. Shorty cautiously makes his way among the congeners as best he can, but he has no luck and they wake up. Sophie hides in an old truck and the giants toss the runt to each other like a ball. Then they climb the cliff and ram the cars. The kindly giant sees that he is about to collide with the truck where Sophie is hiding and saves the girl, disabling the giant roller with a powerful kick to the groin. Then it starts to rain and the giants, who can't stand the water, scatter. Except that Ludogloff finds Sophie's blanket and guesses that Shorty is hiding something. Meanwhile, the girl and her friend continue their ascent of Magic Mountain. The giant tells her that he can hear everything in the world, from the music of the stars to the hoofs of ladybirds. On the shore of a beautiful fairy lake, he confesses that someone once nicknamed him the Big, Kind Giant. Then he jumps in and beckons Sophie to follow him. The friends find themselves in the land of dreams, under a sky lit by flashes of northern lights. Dozens of brightly colored dreamflies fly by. The giant grabs a net and rushes in to catch the most peculiar one, a golden-colored firefly. The dreamer scurries around but then freezes by Sophie's side. He seems to recognize the girl, and while the girl merrily chases after the other dreams, the giant signs the flask with the blonde jewel, Sophie's dream. The girl wants to catch the bright orange light but is suddenly attacked by a fiery red one. She grabs it and the giant recognizes in the dream she has caught the evil one. The friends leave the dreamland and on the way back Sophie decides that she will call her friend BFG, the same thing as the best friend giant, only shorter. Together they go to London to pipe dreams, that is, to deliver them to sleeping children. In one of the windows they see a boy sleeping peacefully. The giant fills his trumpet with golden light and blows it into the room. The sparkle flies into the child's mouth and the boy begins to dream a magic dream about being asked to call the president himself. The parents cannot believe that their son knows such a tall face and the child is chatting to the president like a friend. The boy smiles happily in his sleep, but afterwards the giant hears someone crying. Someone's heart has been gripped by the hand of sadness. Sophie sees the ogre giants returning from the city. They have been hunting and seem to have caught a man. Then the girl grabs where her blanket is, but it is nowhere to be found, and she remembers that she must have dropped it in the land of the giants. For BFG this means one thing: the ogres have found out about the girl, and if he brings her home again they will find her and eat her. With a heavy heart, he leaves the sleeping girl at the orphanage. When Sophie wakes up, BFG tells her that he once heard the lonely heart of a boy, the one who wore the red jacket. But he noticed too, the giant, and had to drag him away. Later he wanted to bring him back, but was too late to do so. Sophie assures her friend that she is not afraid of anything, but BFG leaves without her. The girl returns to the shelter but she no longer finds her home bed cozy and warm anymore. Sophie goes to the balcony, hoping the giant will hear her and picks her up, but he does not show. Then the girl takes a desperate step. She jumps off the balcony and falls straight into the soft big palm. Happy, the friends return to the cave together. There they figure out how to get rid of the dangerous ogres, but they show up early. The manhugger brings all his congeners to the short man. Sniffing out a found blanket, they begin their hunt. In search of the girl, the giants turn the BFG's house upside down. Almost all the dream vials are smashed, but most importantly, Sophie manages to hide from the bloodthirsty monster eyes. The girl climbs into a tree and finds herself in the room where the good giant's little friend once lived. She looks at the boy's touching drawings, but the ogre decides to look into the hollow tree. He almost finds Sophie as BFG decides to fight back and with a lit torch to drive the evil congeners from their home. Meanwhile, Sophie finds a portrait of the queen in the room and realizes that only the monarch can help. BFG agrees to ask for help, but first he must show the queen a special dream. In this dream, there will be cannibals stealing children from the streets of London, the military rushing to help Sophie herself and the kindly BFG when the dream is ready. The girl explains to her friend that in the morning when the queen wakes up, they should be outside her window. Then it turns out that the giant isn't ready to open up to people, but there's no other way out. Late at night, a girl and her friend make their way to the royal palace. BFG, using her camouflage skills, successfully hides from the guards and trumpets a dream right into the queen's chamber. Her Majesty sees all the horrors that cannibals create by the cannibals in detail and color. Upon awakening from her nightmare, she tells to Maiden Mary about the giants who reach through the windows and kidnap the children. Mary is just holding up the morning paper about the mysterious disappearance of the children. Suddenly the queen remembers another passage from her dream and asks to open the curtains. On the windowsill, just as she had dreamed, stands a girl. The queen guesses she was lifted there by a giant, and Sophie confirms it. She calls her friend and he finally decides to show himself. On the queen's orders, the guards do not to harm him. BFG manages his excitement and introduces himself to the monarch. Changing her nightgown for formal attire, the queen calls the heads of state with news of cannibalistic giants responsible for the kidnappings. Later, in the main palace hall, a gala reception is held. The queen meets the giant. The giant sneaks up to the place on all fours and drops the chandelier almost on top of the monarch. A royal dinner is arranged for the guest. A separate, enormous table is set up for him, and the table is served with a sword, shovel, and pitchfork as cutlery. This is followed by trays of croutons, scrambled eggs, pancakes, and other delicacies. The BFG tastes it all and announces that it's all eaten. Yum yum. Sophie sits next to the queen at the table and enjoys some strawberries and cream. When it comes to coffee, the giant decides it's pure badness and pulls out his favorite bouillabaisse. He also serves it to the queen and her staff. Meanwhile, the queen receives the commanders of the armed forces and orders them to take part in a special operation in the land of the giants. The audience raise their glasses to future success and, of course, it's all followed by a big whistleblower. Soon the squadron is sent to the land of the giants to retrieve the BDM, and the pilots realize that the instruments do not allow them to find the land. The good giant in his cave prepares a dream for his kin. If all goes well, they will wake up suffering from scratches of conscience. At dawn, the girl is talking to a friend and he tells her about a light bearer, a dream she will have one day. Sophie realizes that she will no longer wake up in the land of the giants, but she is assured that she will always hear the call of her heart. When the time comes for the dream to end, it is revealed that the trumpet has been left at the royal palace. Sophie grabs the vial and delivers the dream to the ogress herself. Unfortunately, the ogre wakes up and drives the dream away. He is about to devour Sophie, but the runt intervenes on her behalf. The manhugger is about to get even with his cousin, but people in helicopters intervene and capture the horrible ogres with nets. They are taken far out to sea to a lonely island where they have to grow and feed themselves from the seeds left behind. As for Sophia, the girl stays at the palace. She knows that her friend is living peacefully in his house, tending a large vegetable garden where the tastiest vegetables now grow, and writing a book. In the morning, Sophie goes to the window and says good morning to BFG, and he of course hears it. This is the end of the story. What do you think, guys? What do you think about this story? And now I have to say goodbye for today. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video. See you on this channel again. Bye.